Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Gal Swisa Cohen. 3 years ago, my family and I moved to Long Island with a clear mission to serve as the living bridge between the people of Israel and the incredible community here. Out of this journey, I created The Israeli Bond, a podcast designed to tell the story of Israel and its people beyond the headlines. We are here for the authentic, the personal, and the direct stories that bring us close together. This podcast is a production of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County, New York, and it is thanks to their vision and support that this content is brought to you today. And let's begin with my special guest, Hedva Montias. Hedva is the director of the Shlichut initiative to UJA Federation of New York, where she leads a team of 36 emissaries among us dedicated to strengthening the bond between Israel and New York diverse Jewish communities. A daughter of Holocaust survivors and former CEO of Le Manam, Physicians for Holocaust Survivors, she brings decades of executive leadership in the nonprofit sector to her mission of fostering Jewish resilience and mutual understanding. And this is actually our second podcast. In our first podcast, I interviewed you about your mother's story as a Holocaust survivor. And in this episode, we will focus on your role as the CEO of Le Manam. And I'm going to use your professional expertise to give our audience another angle of Israel, this time through the lens of the survivors of the Holocaust and the treatment that they get and how it differs, or maybe how it the same as they get here in the US. To provide a broader context, we are having this conversation on the eve of Israel Holocaust Remembrance Day. So here in the US, this day isn't marked at all, right? Because the International Holocaust Memorial Day is on January 27. And this is one of the many differences between Israel and the rest of the world, right? Regarding Holocaust memory, preserving the memory, and also regarding how we treat and how we and the status of Holocaust survivors. And as I said, this podcast is a bridge between Israel and the rest of the world, and this is an angle that I really wanted to share on this podcast. So after all
Do
this,
have a question?
So basically, when quick note before we even start about your role. So even the fact that Israel Memorial Day is tomorrow, and the fact that the International Memorial Day is in January is also a very big difference. Do you know why the difference?
I think that what's interesting about those two dates, the reason is what's behind them, why they were chosen. So first of all, the Holocaust Memorial Day in Israel was set already in 1953. Less than 5 years to the establishment of Israel. So it was part of the Israeli storytelling from the beginning. And they chose, the day that they chose for it, it was the beginning of the end of Ghetto Warshia's rebellion.
Yeah, uprising.
Uprising, sorry. So it was, from the beginning, was a story of heroism. And they kind of tried to portray, the Holocaust survivors, at least in the idea, as part of how they resilience.
And heroism. And also in Israel, we call this day the Holocaust Memorial
Heroism Day.
Yeah.
But it changed through the years, by the way. It wasn't that in the beginning. The beginning, it was just Memorial Day of the Holocaust, and then they added it.
But still, they chose a heroic part of this entire 5 years. The heroic part of people try to uprise and try to fight against this crazy.
So they tried to build a narrative with this choosing this date. It took many years before the Israeli society actually lived that narrative. For many, many years, most of the Holocaust survivors in Israel were suspicious. People kind of raised their eyebrow. How it's possible that you survived if it was so horrible?
Oh,
it was a shame to be a Holocaust survivor. for many years. I think that they are saying that the biggest change was after Eichmann's trial. This was the first time that the Israeli society was ready to hear the horror, the stories, the horrible stories from the Holocaust. And I think that part of the biggest change was when they started to hear, they changed the name from Holocaust survivors to Holocaust שורדים וניצולים.
Like refugees?
It was from surviving to in Hebrew, it's two different words. There is one that says that they were rescued, and the other one said that they survived it. So they went through it. I think that in the last 20 years, we're starting to talk about the Holocaust survivors as kind of heroes. We're kind of starting to look in a very different perspective of their stories and their, surviving this horrible period of time. The Holocaust Memorial Day in international one that is mentioned that internationally is January 27th, which is the day that Auschwitz was released. And it was starting to mentioned only 20 years ago. It was in 2005 when they started to mention it. On a personal note, it was very funny and weird for us because this is my parents' anniversary day, January 27th, which was crazy.
We also know it's one day before your family
released from
the Holocaust.
From the Holocaust, their own personal, Holocaust story. And also because when I learned about it some more, it also, first of all, I'm very happy that there is an International Memorial Holocaust Day, because I think that it is something that it's not Israeli. It's definitely not just Jewish. I think that a lot of, everyone needs to learn about this dark time and about how horrible anti-Semitism and how horrible hate.
Yeah.
And what can it bring to, what can happen. I think that this is a lesson that all mankind needs to learn. So I'm really appreciate that this day is existed. The date that they chose, it's kind of makes me really kind of uncomfortable.
I think it just tells a different narrative. Well, in Israel, the narrative is of heroism and is a part of the whole narrative of from being it's 1 week after Passover. So from being slave
and
to
1 week before Yom HaShoah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 1 week. It's 1 week after Passover when we talk about getting out of slavery. Then fighting in the diaspora, and then establishing the State of Israel a week later with the Memorial Day, and then Yom HaShoah, Independence Day, which is part of this narrative of we fought, we prevailed, and now we have a country. Well, in the world is a day of never again, and how the Americans released the it's not only the Jews, but
they brought the free world back. Alive.
So going into freedom for all of the world, meaning never again. Look of this horrific.
And also Auschwitz is a symbol. It's a symbol of everything that
of all the
story, all the Holocaust story. It's definitely a symbol that it should be, but it's.
So this is one difference, for example.
Absolutely.
And I think that most of the listeners and the people who watch this podcast did not know it before. But it's second, another difference that I want to talk about is the difference between the profile of a Holocaust survivor, between what I guess the typical Holocaust survivor that maybe someone who listens to us right now thinks in his mind, and the way that the government of Israel today is profiling who is a Holocaust survivor. So can you explain?
Yes. So I think that this is also very interesting, because I think that 80 years ago, when the war was over, or 75 years ago, they looked at the Holocaust survivors, and the profile was people from Eastern Europe that was in the ghettos and was in the working camps, and that, where Nazis Germany was fighting. So this is what the Holocaust survivors profile. As the year goes, as the story continue, in Israel, they started to recognize that Holocaust survivors were coming from everywhere, from all over Europe. They have, first of all the former Soviet Union immigrants that came in the 90s to Israel, and they brought their own stories. The war, World War II in Russia, in Soviet Union, was very hard. And the Jews over there and also the general population suffered a lot. So in some point, they started to relate to the Jews that came from former Soviet Union, also as part of the Holocaust refugees and survivors. And then they also brought to the story the North African Jews that also kind of neglected from the story for many years. But I think that now that they are recognized by the government, by the Claim Conference, which is the biggest organization that takes care of Holocaust survivors. And right now we look at basically almost everyone that lives in Israel over the age of 88 as part of the Holocaust survivors, unless they lived in Israel, actually lived in Israel. But if they're coming from Tunis, if they're coming from Louvre, if they're coming from Europe, obviously, if they're coming from Iraq, if they're coming from former Soviet Union, all of them are recognized as Holocaust survivors. I think that it's a very big difference from here, because I think that in the United States, the profile of the Holocaust survivors are still very similar to what it was in the beginning in Israel, because those are the mainly immigrants that came after the war to the States.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I wonder how...
But maybe also former Soviet Union Russian speakers here in the States also kind of, I don't know if they're also considered, I'm not sure.
If they're considered as a Holocaust survivors. Because when we're talking about Holocaust survivors, I think that here in the US, the main theme is like whether you experience the Holocaust or not, while in Israel, it's actually a status. Right? Like it's a given status. It's not that something, it's not only like how you feel about it. You also get, you get recognition. How does this recognition come to life?
First of all, I get a sense, since I'm here, and I also was here 18 years ago as a shlicha, I think that also here, the Holocaust survivors have...
A governmental recognition?
Not a governmental, no, but in the Jewish community.
Okay.
Inside the Jewish community, they definitely get recognition and room and special treatment. In the Israeli society, I think that it's obviously much bigger. But
they also get funds from the government.
Because they got recognized as a population that suffered a very specific, different suffering than any other population, than the government. But it's not necessarily just the government, it's also the Claim Conference. So there are organizations, and the German, they had all kind of agreement with the German government that recognize and kind of trying to reconcile and to trying to find a way to get forgiveness from Germany for what they went through. And I think that the Israel state, as a government, kind of channeling the funds from this is kind of between governments, the government. It's a discussion between the Israeli government and the German government. And they also have the Claim Conference as another organization that actually sits in the United States, in New York. And there are all those big organizations and that talks about who is the Holocaust survivors and what they are entitled for, and how can we support and help them to overcome their suffering.
So let's talk about Le Manam. Yes, let's talk about Le Manam, the organization that you led. You were the CEO of Le Manam. And this is a nonprofit organization, right? Can you tell us a little bit about this organization?
So Le Manam is a very unique nonprofit in the field of definitely the Holocaust survivors, but also in general nonprofit organizations, mainly because of, and I want to relate to the Holocaust survivors, if most of the all the other non-profit organization that helps Holocaust survivors, that usually help the needy. They're looking at their social economic status, and they're trying to meet their needs. If they need more hot meals, if they need hot clothing for the winter, if they need emotional support, they measure it by social economic status.
So it doesn't matter really if you're a Holocaust survivor or not. It's just the degree of your social ranking.
So if you're a Holocaust survivor, you will be entitled for help, with, let's say, medical, not medical. This is, let's say, if you will be entitled for help with housing. Okay, you can discount on taxes or something because you're Holocaust survivors, but you will get it only if you're not earning enough. If you're a social economic.
So you need to meet two
criteria.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And when Le Manam was established, and it was during the COVID, it was in 2020. They decided the doctor that established the nonprofit, she decided that she is going to give services to all Holocaust survivors, no matter what. And the idea was that when we are looking at medical treatments and when we are looking at the challenges that Holocaust survivors are dealing in getting good medical services, it doesn't really matter about how much money you have. If you need to go to a physiotherapy and you just can't handle the taxi driver and going out and
booking the
and walking there and working there, trying to set the appointment and dealing with all the things that surround it. It's not about the money. It's about about the fact that if you're able to do it or not. And she decided she's going to help all Holocaust survivors, and that with volunteers, physicians, that started as a home visits for Holocaust survivors. It was the beginning, it was COVID. So they just did a lot of home visits. And from there, it grew after COVID passed to a call center. Each and every Holocaust survivors, no matter from where or what it's exactly needs, can call and ask for any medical services that he wants. It could be an eye doctor, it could be orthopedic, it could be any
orthopedic,
yes,
like anything
that they need in the medical field, and the call center get the request and match a doctor in the area that will give the service. So it could depend also in their ability, but if they were able to go to the doctor, then they would get services in their clinic. But if they couldn't leave the house, then the physician came to their house.
So it's almost like when I here in the US calling my insurance company to book an appointment. So if you are a Holocaust survivor, you can call this
call
number,
center, and then get a VIP service because we believe that we owe all Holocaust survivors, no matter their background or their social economic status, we owe them this VIP services. And we understand that at this point of time, we are the average age of the Holocaust survivors is 88. We're not talking about a lot of people. We're talking about people that no matter what, they have medical challenges and a lot of medical needs. And I think that having this service, bringing you for our former podcast on a personal note, I saw it through my mother's eyes when she got this service. And it was so heartwarming and kind of meeting kindness in a place that she didn't expect to. It was, she was experiencing vertigo. and she needed help with a physiotherapist, and it was really hard to take her, even when we wanted to help. Like even for us, she had all the support system from home. We were able to help her, and we had the money to pay to a physician. But this is a service that you don't get. A physical therapy that come to your house once a week, help you practice, keep the records at your home, doing it for free, asking how you do, sitting with her for coffee, not just, for the 10 minutes appointment. And it's made so big difference in her life. Like she's until now, it was a year ago, and she's still talking about this volunteer, how kind she was, how like she bought her, like she was like, she seriously doesn't want money, like all the time. Like I can pay. No, this is not the idea of this nonprofit organization. We are doing it because we believe that, the Israeli society owe you something. And this is how Le Manam looks like. And
I can totally understand, and I really love this cause, and I can totally relate to how important it is to go into an elderly woman, and to give her the treat that she needs when it's so hard for her. Even if she has the means, it's really hard for her to get this treatment otherwise. I totally get it, but I want to be the devil's advocate for a minute and ask you, this very, very kind acts and service is something that I believe that all elder people would need. So why specifically Holocaust survivors?
So I guess that this is a question that we were asked a lot on a daily basis when I work there. And my answer was always that, first of all, you have to start somewhere. Okay, when you build this idea of volunteering medicine services in a country, by the way, that has a not very bad medical system.
Yeah.
I mean,
basically in Israel, you don't need to pay a lot to get a very good health
treatment.
Yeah.
It's not that there is not an availability of medical treatment, but definitely the service that Le Manam created is unique. It's privileged, and I guess that we just had to start somewhere, and they chose to start with the Holocaust survivors because of their special status in the Israeli society. And I guess that now, but as we go, and it's a new initiative, it's a new nonprofit. It's only 6 years started, 6 years ago. I believe that this is where they're going to. They are aiming to look and trying to grow, and they're looking for more funding, and they're doing it. By the way, they're 100% philanthropic funding. It's not a government thing because the government has a medical system. So it's an idea that is developed, and I think that as the year goes by, and there are less and less Holocaust survivors, but there always will have elderly people that will need this kind of a service. So I do believe that hopefully they will be able to be big enough and have enough funding to give this service to everyone.
This is very interesting. This is very interesting because it's it completely led me to the question of what's next. Exactly. But still, I want to ask if maybe you saw any specific profile that a Holocaust survivor today needs it more than the average 88 years old person.
So I think that everything, the assumption for many, many years was that the Holocaust survivors had different needs, medical needs, because they suffered from hunger and they suffered from, not bad nutrition. And so the assumption was that they definitely need an emotional support. The assumption was that they need different and more medical treatment. When I worked there, and the age is, again, average of 88, I don't think that there was any unique, because as I told you before, my mother she's 80 years old today, hopefully for many more years. But she was 5-year-old during the war. So if this is the profile, most of the people that are Holocaust survivors were kids. And if they lived so long, they're healthy. Thanks God. So their needs is not different than any other person. I think that the emotional supports might be different. I think that as they grow older, their stories comes back. The trauma is getting bigger. Just again, as a personal note, when I told you in the before about my father that he was always telling the stories as adventure and was never, only in his last 2 or 3 years before he passed away, he started to talk about the fear and about, started to understand how terrified and how big the thing that he went through as a child. So I think that in an emotional perspective, maybe the Holocaust survivors do have more needs. In the medical, I'm not as expert, so I don't really, but the profile that we saw when I worked there wasn't a different need. It just was, I think that the profile was a very proud people that doesn't understand that they can ask for help. And I think it's, by the way, it's for all elderly people. I think that, again, it's not necessarily just the Holocaust survivors, but I think that it's like this generation. I always look at them in very admiration because most of them, the people that I met, they're so strong and they're trying to be independent as much as they can, and asking for help is very, very hard. And they want not to be relied on anyone. I think that it's part of, and this was part of the idea of Le Manam, that we know that you can help. Even if you have kids that can help you, even if you have even grandkids that can help you, you want to be on your own. You want to be able to pick up the phone and ask for a doctor by yourself. To be in a position that you need your daughter to do this for you, it's a very hard place to be. So Le Manam tried to do it. This is why we stick with the phone and not with apps and, go to the website. And no, use the phone and talk to someone. This is one of the biggest requests that all people that we served always told us. The fact that we can call someone and in the other side there is a person and not a bot, push 1, push 2, push 3. This was the biggest difference, that there is someone there that talked to them and listened to the whole medical thing sometimes for 30 minutes. It was medical students. They are working in the call center. And the fact that this is part of the treatment. Was basically part of the treatment, because we realized that most of those people, most of the elderly, one of the biggest things that they are suffering from is loneliness. And so hard. And I have to tell you, it's hard to listen to someone that talks again and again about the same things and repeated himself. And here they found people that have patience and listen to them. So I think that this is the uniqueness, and I think that this is the needs that we recognize in Le Manam, and we try to give the whole full service. And I do really, really want and wish that every elderly person in the world will be able to get this kind of a service in these last days.
I agree. And I want to say that it is so funny that I wanted to talk with you about Israel and how Israel is supporting Holocaust survivors, or how in Israel it looks maybe different than here, but it ended that we just talked about such a kind initiative, which is, in a way, it's also a part of the Israeli society with all the initiatives that we saw, especially after October 7th.
Absolutely.
And Le Manam is definitely one of them. And I truly hope that
I have to tell you that
in
after October 7th, I was the CEO on October 7th. And by October 8th, or maybe 10th, maybe 2 days later, once we kind of started to understand what's going on, we worked in two channels. We worked in one channel that was still the Holocaust survivors, giving them all calls. We called each one of our database Holocaust survivors to make sure where he is and if he's safe and how can we help them. It was a lot about medicines and prescriptions. But in the other hand, we had so many volunteers, physician volunteers, that we arranged them to go to the Dead Sea, to the hotels, and help and give services to the general public, all the families that were there. And we were there for almost the first 2-3 weeks of the war. We were the first there that gave medical services. We have a mobile clinic that we drove over there, and we gave services to everyone. Like we were able to do the switch in no time.
So we're already starting to see how it can really expand the mission, and basically, I could have talked with you about this forever, but unfortunately, our time is up. But thank you again for sharing your story and also explaining about Le Manam, this very, very important organization, and giving our listeners another glimpse on Israel
Really?
and the initiatives and all the beautiful things that the society in Israel has to offer. And again, I really wish that Le Manam will grow
Continue.
and expand their mission even more. But for today, thank you, Hedva,
Thank
for
you
being
guys so
with me
much for
today.
giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Israeli Bond on hmTV. I appreciate my guest, Hedva Montias, for sharing her insights as the former CEO of Le Manam in Israel. If you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories of today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcasts here on hmTV. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations. Until next time, take care and be well. Thank you.